I would like to call to order Brandywine Heights Area School District reorganization meeting, December 6th, 2021. Could we all rise, pledge of allegiance, please?
Where is he? It got moved. Uh-oh. So where's the flag? It got moved.
There's one all the way over here.
Right over here.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Donato.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we get a roll call, please?
Here. Mr. Hefner?
Here.
Mr. Cohenfield?
Here.
Mrs. Hughes? Here. Mr. Reinower?
Here.
Mr. Sheets?
Here.
Mr. Stubitz? Mrs. Walliser? Here. Mr. Wright?
Here.
I'm present.
I'll take it. I'd like to introduce the new board members here who were just elected. We have Mr. Kenneth Hefner, who was elected to a 4-year term. Mr. Brian Hohenschel was elected to a 4-year term. Mr. Matthew Reitnauer, who was elected to a 4-year term, and Zachary Stubitz, who was elected to a 4-year term.
So what we'd like to do this evening, first, thank you everyone that's here this evening. Just to let you know the procedurally what's happening, there's 2 separate meetings that are happening tonight, and we have to do a reorganization meeting first before we can do a regular school board meeting. So we'll get to the soccer team in just a second, just bear with us. But right now, what we will be doing for the reorganization meeting is to swear in our 4 new board members. So we asked Judge Chipo, who is our district judge, his office is down in Ole. And so he's going to come up. We're going to do recognitions and swearing in the oath of each board member individually. And then what I'd like to do is get a group shot with the 4 new board members. So we will start with Mr. Hefner.
Would you like them to come out on the floor?
Yeah, that'd be great if they come out on the floor. I think that's appropriate.
All right. Okay. You want to come on out here?
Yep.
Okay. Can you raise your right hand for me, please? Repeat after me. I, Kenneth Hefner, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, repeat after me. I, your name?
Brian Hohenschel.
Okay, good. I don't want to screw that up. I apologize. Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
Or affirm. That I will support. Obey. And defend.
The
Constitution of the United States.
Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of this Commonwealth.
And the Constitution of this Commonwealth.
And that I will discharge the duties.
Of
my office with fidelity. Congratulations. Hello. Stupid?
Yes.
Okay, good. Repeat after me. I, Zachary Stubitz,
I, Zachary Stubitz,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and Constitution of this Commonwealth, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Congratulations. Reitenauer?
Yes.
Okay. I, Matthew Reitenauer,
I, Matthew Reitenauer,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
I will support,
I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and this Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations.
If it's possible, if I can have the 4 new board members and judge, if you don't mind, taking a picture with the board, maybe we'll do it right here. This might be our best backdrop right
Okay.
now. Okay. Carly, you want to coordinate them?
Am I the boss?
Doesn't matter.
I believe so.
Think they're coordinated just now?
Yeah, would
Then have
you
guys
want
scoot
two over
a
here
little
or?
bit. Yeah, 2 on each side. Nice smiles under the mask. All right, thank you. Congratulations.
You're welcome. Thank you. Congratulations.
Judge, thank you so much for coming out this evening.
Great problem. I'll go over there and get this taken care of and then you'll.
Mr. Farina, do you mind meeting the judge and just grabbing those documents?
Yeah, it'll take me a couple minutes, but I'll bring them over to you then. Okay. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, so as part of the reorganization meeting, there's some procedural notes. So what will happen is we're going to do 3 major sections. The first one is to elect a temporary president, and then the second one, and that temporary president will run the proceedings. The second one is to elect a president for the board for the upcoming year, and the third one is to elect a vice president for the board for the upcoming year. Some procedural notes that are listed on the agenda here. Nominations require a second. So once we open up nominations, you will state a name. I nominate so-and-so for the office of president, and that requires a second to be official. If only one person is nominated for a position, there needs to be a motion and a second for the secretary to cast a unanimous ballot for the person to be nominated. That would be a voice vote. If there's more than one person is nominated for a position, there will need to be a call for a roll call vote. So if there's 2 people, instead of a voice vote of all in favor, yay or nay, it would be a voice vote, and you would say the name of the individual that you would be voting for. Okay. If there are 2 candidates, the individual with 5 votes or more wins the position. If there are 3 candidates for a position and one does not receive 5 votes, the candidate with the fewest votes would be removed, and then a revote would be cast until we get someone that would win the 5 votes for that position. Any questions on that? All right, Mr. Wagner, I'll turn it over to you for the election of temporary president.
All right, I need a motion and a second to nominate a temporary president.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Mike Wagner to be temporary president.
Second?
Motion closes. And, roll call vote for it? Voice vote. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, moving on, election of president. Need a motion and a motion to nominate president and a second.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Mike Wagner for the position of president.
Voice, any other nominations?
I'd like to move to close the ballot, according to the document language.
To a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate that. All right, you need a roll call vote, should
We don't need a roll call. I was just going to say, it was a little awkward applause there. I was going to say congratulations.
All right.
You did a phenomenal job last year. Look forward to you serving that leadership.
Thank you very much. I would like to open the floor for vice president. Is there a motion for vice president?
I would like to make a motion to nominate Hvac Upgrades.
Second. Cheese.
I would like to would also like to make a nomination to nominate Mrs. Hune.
Second.
I was gonna say, am I allowed to second that? Second.
Is there any
You
other?
second that, John?
Any other nominations? So we need a motion to close the ballot.
I make a motion to close it out.
Second.
Second.
All right. So we roll call vote and state the name, either Mrs. Hune or Mrs. Eisenhart.
Mrs. Eisenhart? Eisenhart. Mr. Hefner? Mr. Hohenfeld?
Mrs. Eisner.
Mrs. Hien?
Yeah.
Mr. Reitauer?
Mrs. Eisenhart.
Mr. Sheets?
Mrs. Eisenhart.
Mr. Stevens? Mrs. Walliser? Mr. Wagner?
Mrs. Hune.
6 votes for Mrs. Eisenhart, 3 votes for Mrs. Hugh.
Congratulations.
All right, moving on here to appointment of delegates to the board. Currently serving for the Berks County Earned Income Tax Collection Bureau is Ms. Nicole DeGuerico, and the alternate is Rosemary Lamostra. Nicole, are you still? Very good.
And Mrs. Lamostra is our secondary person. She actually represents a lot of the townships in the school district, and so she's offered to fill in for us as a second.
Okay, thank you very much. We have Berks County Committee on Legislation Action that is currently filled by Mrs. Walliser. You interested in continuing?
I am, yes.
Any other? Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so we have District Policy Committee that was currently held by Mr. Carter, and he is no longer on the board. So I would need a volunteer to fill that role.
Just to fill you in what the policy committee does, we will talk about this in a little bit. The policy committee, we have a multi-year plan to review policies. Once those policies are identified for that month, the administration develops recommendations in coordination with Mr. Pratt and PSBA. We provide those recommendations to the policy committee. They review the policies, and then those policies get put on the board agenda. They get viewed by the entire board then for the 1 month. If there's any adjustments, they get those can be made, and then they get put on the board a second month. And after that second month is when they become official policies of the school district. So the policy lead in the policy committee is that first review of those policies before they even get to the school board meeting.
And is that like an actual meeting or?
It's all done electronically.
All right, District Strategic Planning Goals Committee that is currently held by Mrs. Eisenhart. Thank you. District Negotiations Compensation Committee is currently held by Mr. Sheets. Yes. Thank you. The District Building Construction Committee representative, that was Mrs. Hune and Mrs. Eisenhart and Mr. Tomasi. So we are missing one person. So are there any takers for the Building Committee?
And if there's more than one interested in that committee, I'm happy to offer up my spot if there's other interest.
just a little explanation of what the building committee does. We are finalizing the project here. There's one more phase of projects that we're working through right now. And so the building committee works with the engineer or the architect, the administration, and helps to guide some of those conversations as we go into the final phase. Last meeting, we went through some of the processes of design, went through some of the processes of color picking and that sort of thing. So it gets a little bit heavy on meetings, but it kind of like ebbs and flows. So there might be a period of 3-4 months where there might be a meeting every month or every other week, just to get through some of that, like that crunch time where a lot of decisions have to be made. But that committee kind of becomes the filter for the board. So when we get to the board meetings, and those decisions are made about the building project. That building committee is the one that has really vetted the project with the administration to get to that. Is that fair summary?
That's great.
Okay. So Mr. Hafner?
How much does that take?
As much water as you'd like to drink. And we throw some candy in too sometimes.
So I see Brian sitting there in a construction company. That's their any interest in that? It could be an area of expertise for you.
What about that? I'll try it. I'll do it.
Right, moving on, current delegates, an appointment. Mrs. Hume currently serves as the BCIU delegate, which is a 3-year term. Mr. Sheets is currently serving as the BCTC delegate. He is also currently serving as the treasurer. What's that? Oh, that's a good question. Mr. Sheets, are you still interested in serving BCTC, or would you?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And then Mr. Nolan Shaw currently serves as the district representative to the Berks Vocational Technical School Authority for a 4-year term.
And then we have 2 other just acknowledgements relative to positions in the school district. We have a Title IX coordinator that has to be identified to the school district. That's Mrs. Capriega. She is our HR specialist. And then we also have to designate a school safety and security administrator, and that is Mr. Jameson Barnhart, our vice principal at high school.
Could I get a motion and a second to approve all of the above appointments?
You move?
Sheets seconds.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eisenhardt? Yes. Mr. Hafner?
Yes.
Mr. Hillerschel? Mrs. Hume?
Yeah.
Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
Mr. Sheets?
Yes.
Mr. Stubitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Walliser? Yes. Mr. Wagman?
Yes.
9 yeas, motion passes.
All right, meeting dates. Could I get a motion and a second to approve the meeting calendar for the board for 2022?
Second.
This is it. Are you? Okay, no, I wasn't sure. I heard a voice and we weren't quite sure. I'm sorry. No, you're fine. No, you're fine. We just missed. Mr. Sheets, did you second? I second. Thank you. So the board meetings, there are just a couple notes to point out here. January 10th would be our January board meeting instead of, I think it's January 2nd or January 3rd would be that Monday. So we have, that Monday is a day off for students. So that's why we bumped to the week coming back. So that is one to note for school board meeting change. The one items in blue, February 14th, February 21, and March 28th are our 3 budget work sessions. So those aren't officially board meetings where we sit and we take roll call and things like that, but those are ones where we specifically set aside to talk about core components of the budget process. So the first one's going to talk about the curriculum instruction and all the academic side of the budget. The second one's going to talk more about the operational side of the budget, which is going to be maintenance and transportation and the business side, the business office. And then the third one, which is obviously a little bit later in the calendar, March 28th, is our salary and benefits. Salary and benefits obviously is the majority of the budget. And so we delay on that a little bit to get a clearer picture of student enrollments. We also delay a little bit to get a better picture of what students are choosing for course selection at the high school primarily, that help us understand our staffing needs for the upcoming year. So that's why we wait until March 28th for that budget meeting relative to salaries. The other two to point out is April 4th. That is the week of spring break. That is off for students, but that Monday is a day when it is a work session for support staff or administration. So that shouldn't be a conflict for us to be able to have that meeting that night. And then the other one is Tuesday, September 6th. Please note that's a Tuesday because Monday's a Memorial Day. So it's the day after Labor Day.
So if I can just go forward with a question, what about moving that 6th to the 12th so that we maintain Mondays? Because that always seems to be a flyer. Additionally, it seems that we typically also have people that are still on vacation to a certain point. They'll go and they'll stay until Tuesday or Wednesday. And then that way we don't put an undue burden on them trying to raise funds for a school board meeting that we just do the following Monday and maintain that Monday.
I'm fine with that.
Everybody okay
Hear
with
that?
Yeah.
Sorry,
What month are we
taking
talking about?
Tuesday, September 6th, and moving to Monday, September 12th. Okay, all right, let's make that adjustment. So that Tuesday, September 6th, fourth from the bottom will now be Monday, September 12th.
That also should help administrators as well. So you guys aren't coming back to come right back in on the holiday, refill and all that stuff. Gives you an extra week to kind of get everything together and it's also cheap.
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Can I get,
Yeah, I'm good with that.
can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Hefner,
Yes.
Mr. Hellershill,
Yes.
Mrs. Hume,
Yes?
Mr. Reitnauer,
Yes.
Mr. Sheets,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mrs. Wallheiser, yes, Mrs. Eisenhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Wagner.
Yes.
9 yeas, motion passes.
Thank you. Any public comments in regards to the reorg? Any additional board comments?
Just again, congratulations to Mrs. Eisenhardt in your new role. Thank you, Mrs. Hume, for serving in your role for the past several years as vice president. And Mr. Weigeman, thank you for your continued service as president. You did an excellent job last year.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn?
So moved, Sheets.
Perfect. That was painless. All right. The second meeting of the evening. Call to order the school board meeting for December 6th, 2021. All right. So could I get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Eisenhardt? Here. Mr. Hefner?
Here.
Mr. Hellershill?
Here.
Mrs. Hume?
Here.
Mr. Reitnauer?
Here.
Mr. Sheets?
Here.
Mr. Stevens?
Here.
Mrs. Wallheiser? Here. Mr. Wagner?
Here.
9 present.
Move on to recognitions. Andrew, if you'd like to.
Yes. So we have a lot of celebrations this evening, but sadly we do want to open the meeting with an obituary minute. An obituary minute is an opportunity for the school board of directors to recognize someone of importance within the school system. This evening it is to recognize Mrs. Julie Umberger. So I will read the recognition of the contributions to education. Whereas the board of directors of the Brandywine Heights Area School District acknowledges the passing of a dear friend in education, Mrs. Julie A. Umberger, on November 12, 2021. Whereas Julie Umberger served the district with dedication and excellence as an elementary school secretary for a total of 33 years before retiring in 2021. Whereas Julie Umberger's commitment to lifelong learning, devotion to students, and record of excellence in educational and community endeavors will long be remembered and appreciated. And whereas her passing is marked by a deep sense of loss to her family and friends in the district, and whereas the Brandywine Heights Area School Board would like to publicly recognize the extraordinary life and record of service of Julie Umberger, now, therefore, be it resolved that the school board of the Brandywine Heights Area School District officially honor Mrs. Julia Umberger for her role in improving the lives of countless students and citizens through her contributions to education, public service, her family, and the community. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be spread across the official minutes of the school district this 6th day of December 2021, with a copy to be sent to her bereaved family. Signed by the school board of directors. Next up, we would like to recognize some new Heights recipients. So this is the celebration side of the evening. We have excellent staff members, and what we do on a regular basis is we have a monthly New Heights nomination where anyone, a community member, a parent, a student can recognize a staff member. There's usually about 30 staff members that are recognized on a monthly basis, and out of those individuals, 2 of them are selected as the top New Heights recipients, kind of like the employees of the month that were recognized at the school board every month. This evening we have an opportunity to recognize one additional group of team of teachers, and that is our nursing department. So if I can ask Mrs. Dawn Schwenk, Mrs. Jennifer Fodor, Mrs. Victoria Miller, Mrs. Susan Kristen, and Mrs. Kimberly Umberger to step forward, I would really appreciate it. So the reason they're being recognized this evening, in their award nomination, it says, the nursing department has been doing a phenomenal job navigating our district through the pandemic. All hands on deck clearly describes our nurses. They have experienced stress and fatigue as they have worked numerous hours in the day, evenings, and weekends, communicating with parents regarding student close contacts, family quarantines, as well as fielding questions and concern and medical needs. Each nurse has readily participated in training for the rapid COVID-19 antigen testing and rotate daily to provide testing through the drive-through testing site. They are also helping provide, by the way, we were the first ones in the county to do that, so another kudos to them. They are also helping provide their service and support as they ran the pediatric COVID-19 vaccine clinic. They greeted each family member with a smile and continue to remain positive. This is so critical, especially during this time, to ensure the school environment continues to be safe, supportive, and welcoming. The nurses stand by each other ready to jump in and assist. Students, families, staff, and the district are very fortunate to have the dedicated nursing department as part of our team. Not all heroes wear capes. Our nurses have been true heroes for our district since the beginning of the pandemic. Thank you to Dawn, Jen, Kim, Susan, and Vicki.
As you see, they have their superhero shirts on. That looks awesome. So we have the clinic on Monday, the second part of the pediatric clinic. And I need to say, everything that I had written in the conversation, we all feel the same way. They truly stand by each other. If one of them are down or one of them are out, they are there. They have their back. They take care of them. They welcome the students in the classroom, into their office, providing that health care, but at the same time now they're balancing in the pandemic. There have been tears, many, many tears, deep breaths, but they continue to smile. They keep continuing to be very kind and compassionate and having a welcoming environment within their health suites. This clinic that they are helping with, where they thought they were helping with, they are actually running it. They are giving the vaccinations to other students, and they are there, but the students feel comfortable because they know them. They're seeing them every day in the school, so they feel comfortable, well, except for 1 or 2 of them, they say they're never coming back. It is a button, but then they were perfectly fine working with you. We thank you, we appreciate you. The turkeys that you're buying, the food, the coats, everything that you're doing for families, the clinics that you ran last year, the health screenings that you provide, and then the endless list of community agencies that you work with. So we thank you for helping us navigate. We would not be able to do this without all of you. And I'm sure the principals and the rest of the students in school district feel the same way. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reese.
Awesome, especially friends of anyone. Definitely, they always help out, with holidays, you guys providing families with that early need of food that they would meal for that, whatever occasion it is, Christmas, Thanksgiving. And friends of anyone has been great with providing a lot of the kids that need coats this year, even shoes. So thank you.
So on top of doing their normal job and calling all the close contacts, they're running the vaccine clinics and giving the shots. They're also doing the testing on a daily basis. And they're going shopping to buy food for families when at the holiday. So thank you, ladies. You have been awesome leaders. You have been awesome representatives of who we are as the Brandywine family. I can't thank you enough for everything you've done behind the scenes. So a little certificate, oh, wait, this is backwards. A little certificate of
I
appreciation.
forgot the thousands and thousands of phone calls.
But we couldn't have done it with the backup of our district.
Yes.
Support.
Yes, our administration has been great in supporting us as well.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
You want to open your, oh, there we go.
So as everyone's picture, typically we just do the two individuals, but we thought it was very appropriate to recognize our nursing staff this evening, especially in light of the recent vaccine clinic. So just a quick side story on that. It's an awesome opportunity. We partnered with a pharmacy to be able to do that. The pharmacy came, dropped everything off, and had our nurses run it. So we did not quite expect that part of it. They jumped right in and just did everything. So again, huge kudos to them. So these are our official two recognitions this evening. We'd like to start with Miss Marie Lichtenwalner. Mrs. Lichtenwalner, if you don't mind coming up, and Miss Kelly. So Mrs. Lichtenwalner is our elementary librarian, and this is what was drafted on behalf of you. It is a pleasure to work with Marie at the elementary school. She is always willing to pitch in and help out with anything, even if it is last minute. It's nice to have a colleague who is willing to be a positive, friendly, and team player.
That's exactly what I have to say too. You're an excellent team player. We're so fortunate to have Marie on our staff. She's always very positive, friendly, easygoing, but along with that, incredibly hardworking. She did an excellent job of bringing our new library and media center to life, bringing the books in, decorating, and making it a really supportive and fun environment for our kids to learn in, along with all of the cool activities that she does with our kids in library class. I always appreciate your willingness to step up and step in wherever we need it with a smile. So thank you for being you, Marie. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you.
And thank you for everything you've done. You've really changed the face of the library at the elementary school. Just who you are, the environment you've put forth. It's been a great atmosphere you've set. On top of the physical atmosphere you've been able to inherit. So it's been wonderful. And she's been joined with our husband, this evening. So thank you for both of you joining this evening.
Thank you. I feel like I got the best prize of all this year, getting the brand new library.
It's a pretty cool space.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Finally, we'd like to recognize Mrs. Cassie Conrad. So this is what was written on behalf of you in your new Heights Award. Cassie is the ultimate teacher, dedicated to her students, arriving early and leaving late, and seeks to provide positive learning experiences and engaging lessons for her students. She looks out for those who tend to fall behind and is always pleasant to anyone around her.
So I've been fortunate enough in every year as the high school principal to have the opportunity to work with Mrs. Conrad. She's always stepped up and been a substitute for us in a variety of roles and an amazing number of classes. There's not a course she probably hasn't taught in the high school yet. At this point, I brag about it and say it feels like my good luck charm to have Mrs. Conrad along, and I know her passion for students, regardless of what curriculum or subject it is just so apparent. So it's not uncommon to see her working one-on-one with those students, regardless of what topic it is, and she really has brought just a positive influence and an amazing attitude to her.
So she is serving currently as a physics teacher. She is last year was doing gifted and was also doing art. And so she's kind of like our Swiss Army knife. Whenever we get in the gym, like, hey, Cassie, what are you up to right now? You want to be a long-term sub for the year? She is a phenomenal asset to us in the community, but also as a teacher. teacher in the school district. So Mrs. Conrad, congratulations. So, board, thank you, new board members, and the entire board. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to spend a few minutes. It's really important to recognize our phenomenal staff. Again, we have a phenomenal staff, but to be able to recognize our top players every month is just a great opportunity to celebrate their successes at the board level. Finally, we have one more recognition, and that is to recognize our high school soccer team. So, Mr. Geist, there you are. Do you want to provide a little overview of the high school girls soccer team, what they were able to accomplish, and then maybe we can get them to, we'll get a group picture here together. We'll have them stand up.
Can I have them stand up now? I want them to
Yeah,
stand
come on up, Harold.
Guys, come over. You guys can stand over here.
So this is an awesome opportunity to be able to bring our girls together tonight. They accomplished something that had never been accomplished in our school history before. And so be able to bring them together, celebrate their successes at the school board level. They've already been celebrated throughout the town, throughout the school district. But Mr. Geist, do you want to provide some background of what they were able to do this year?
Sure, I would love to. It's an honor and a privilege to be here tonight to recognize this team. People that know me and our coaches know that I don't get caught up a lot in our records and the scoreboard and our standings. To me, it's all about the life lessons that are learned on our courts and our playing fields. And this team here taught us a lot throughout the course of this season. With every good story, there's adversity, right? You guys said, at one point during the season, I don't want to dwell on this, but this team was 3-10. 3-10. Now, teams that I've been around before that are 3-10 towards the end of the season start to check out. They start to complain. They start to make excuses. They start to look, oh, when does basketball start? Or when does track start? I want to get into winter track. Not these guys right here, not these individuals standing in front of you. They did something very important. They came to practice every single day and worked hard, because I saw it. Every day you were at practice. You showed up and you worked hard with one goal, and that was to get better. And as you did that, you stayed committed and you stayed dedicated, a funny thing happened. You guys got better. You improved with each and every game. People started to take notice. Now, I'm going to tell you this because I'm going to brag a little bit, because I said this from the very get-go, and I kept looking at the power rankings. I said, this team can win a championship. All we need to do is get into the tournament. I said it to Sarah, and every day we would look at the power rankings and just get into the tournament. And guess what? You guys got into the tournament, and the rest is history. And I mean history. First girls soccer team in school history to win a District 3 championship. Woo, woo. Now, many will say that the highlight, probably for all you and for our parents, was that championship game against Harrisburg Christian at Hershey. But as an athletic director, my highlight was at Gettysburg. And I'm sorry, I get choked up talking about this stuff. I really do. And it happened at halftime. And I'm on the sidelines, and Sarah takes the team over to the corner. And I thought I'd just mosey on and listen to some new Blockney speech of how we're going to go and attack. But what I saw was very powerful to me. The team started discussing, led by Sarah and the coaches, was a discussion about what went well, what you could do better, but it was a shared connectiveness of a team. All of you had ownership over that moment, talking. If anybody wants to know what a team looks like and sounds like, having that opportunity to listen to you all that day, that's what it looks like. That's what it sounds like. And you were able to take that out onto the field and win that game and get into the championship and win that game and become champions. So for that, that's something really special. So congratulations. You guys can hold up that trophy right now, show everybody. Now that trophy is the first time it's left Sarah's desk. It sits in the corner. But I will say this, that one day that will be moved from her desk, maybe not, I don't know. And it'll go in one of our trophy cases. It'll probably collect some dust. But know this, the relationships that you built over this experience and the experience that you went through, you're going to take this with you for a lifetime. That's something special. No one can ever say that you couldn't do it because you did it. You're District 3 champions. Congratulations. And I would be remiss, I need to say thank you to our coaches. Zach does a great job. Really appreciate him on the coaching staff. Zach Zellers. You can wave to everybody. You're hiding in the back. And to Sarah Sofa, our head coach. She's well beyond her years as a coach. When she came on board, we knew there was going to be some tough times. There was going to be some adversity. But I can't say enough about her leadership. These state championships don't happen by accident. It takes leadership. And one of the things that is special about Coach Sofa is that throughout that adversity, she did something that I hear like the mantra of the Navy SEALs. Like when they're on a ship and they have tough seas, they say, hold fast, stay firm. And basically what that means is, hold fast, but stay true to your beliefs and your values. Sarah was able to do that, and she stayed the course and kept leading these teams day in and day out and teaching you, and it finally paid off. So Sarah, thank you for your leadership to this team.
Thanks,
Once again, our District 3 girls soccer champions. Well done.
All right, get together.
No, we're supposed to like.
Got that down.
We'll do this.
You guys organized yourself very
well. We've done it a couple times. Yeah, it's not the first time.
I took less.
For all you have done, because I know a lot of that effort, a lot of that win comes from all your dedication, driving back and forth, getting all this stuff ready. So parents, thank you and congratulations to you as well. Finally, one final recognition, we had an opportunity for our band to participate in the Philadelphia Thanksgiving Parade. So if anyone got a glimpse of that, they were highlighted on the news, on the TV. It was a really neat opportunity, as well as 12 of our cheerleaders that got to participate in that opportunity as well to be in the Thanksgiving Parade. I would not be remiss without offering an apology, because we put out a message to our community saying it was the first time they were in that parade, and it was not the first time they were in that parade. So my apologies to all those past alumni that did participate in the Thanksgiving Parade a few years back, and celebration for us being able to continue that tradition. Mr. Wagner, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Moving on to student board representatives. Tatiana?
Last month, the high school powder puff game took place. The juniors beat the seniors 33-25. On November 6th, the BH Clothing Circle held a very successful clothing distribution. 35 groups of people came to take clothing. This is over 2 times the previous turnouts. On Friday, November 19th, Key Club handed out Thanksgiving meals to senior citizens. On November 25th, the high school marching bands, along with some Brandywine cheerleaders, participated in the Philadelphia Thanksgiving Day Parade, as Mr. Pottinger just said. This month at the high school, Students Against Destructive Decisions will be bringing driving simulators back for the junior class to use this time on December 9th. That's this Thursday. Winter sports have also begun, including unified bocce. boys and girls wrestling, and boys and girls basketball. Boys and girls basketball will have their Hamburg tip-off tournament on December 12th. Boys varsity wrestling will have their Sam Lovello Classic Invitational Tournament on December 11th at the middle school. The high school holiday door decorating contest will take place this Friday. Each grade was assigned a specific theme, and homerooms are competing for the best looking door. Also this Friday, the music department's winter concert for senior citizens and BHASD staff will take place at 2:30. The winter concert for families will be on Tuesday, December 14th at 7 p.m. The concert will also be live streamed on the school's YouTube channel. Say to Say Something training for students in grades 6 through 12 will take place on December 16th. Our school's National Honor Society will be hosting a dodgeball tournament also on December 16th. And lastly, the BH Clothing Circle has scheduled 2 upcoming events. We will be collecting clothing on January 8th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the high school. We are looking specifically for winter clothing and accessories. Starting in February, we plan to collect prom dresses as well. Our January distribution will be on January 29th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the high school cafeteria.
Thank you. Megan Miller, elementary school.
For the elementary school, our Title I Family Literacy Night held last month was a huge success. Our reading intervention team hosted Camp Read S'more and invited families to complete reading games together in the cafeteria, make bookmarks in the main lobby, attend the book fair, and read with flashlights in the dark and in tents in the gym. Students that visited each station received a book and gift bag of goodies. Next Thursday, we will host our first family workshop focused on reading. Each family will be given different ideas and games to practice reading strategies at each grade level. There will be prizes raffled off, and we are expecting a great turnout. We're also looking forward to Santa visiting later this month and handing out gifts to students provided by the PTC in the spirit of the holiday season.
Thank you. Lauren Stout, Intermediate and Middle School.
Last Friday on the 3rd, the middle school select course group attended Chris Kittlemark to celebrate the holidays, which was very fun. And we are now looking forward to the 5th and 6th grade winter concert tomorrow on the 7th, and the 7th and 8th grade winter concert on Thursday, December 9th as well. Friends and family members can attend to hear some fun, festive music. The middle school book fair has also started up this week. Students will go to the library to look at the new books in their classes, but family members can attend Tuesday and Thursday this week from 5:30 to 7:30. In the intermediate school, the Kindness Club is doing a toy drive this month, and the Middle School Student Council is also doing a food drive for local pantries during Christmas time. We are also celebrating Christmas festivities at school in the upcoming weeks. Santa comes to visit the intermediate students on December 22nd, and we are having a Christmas Spirit Week as well. It starts on Thursday, December 16th, with the theme of Candy Cane Day, where everyone dresses up in red, white, and stripes. On Friday, it is Winter Wonderland, so we all wear as much white as possible. Then, on Monday, December 20th, it is Holiday Hat and Sock Day. On the 21st, it is Red and Green Day. And on Wednesday, the 22nd, we wear our favorite holiday sweaters. Then we are off for Christmas break on the 23rd.
Thank you very much. Nice job, ladies. Right, moving on to presentations. Any public comments relative to the agenda?
Thank you, ladies.
Hearing none. So, I get a motion and a second for the board of directors report.
Motion of Esther. Second, Melinda.
All right, Andrew.
So, now, please don't take this in any negative way, but just to kind of frame up the board meeting for our new board members, we'll go through a similar process where we ask for a motion to accept the items that are in each section. There's 4 sections we'll go through this month, each meeting tonight and each meeting. The first one is the board of directors section. The second one is the business and operations. The third is the superintendent report, and then the fourth one is personnel. And so again, the motion is second to accept whatever those items are is in there. The administration will typically run through those items, explain a little bit more detail of what those are, and then at the very end, there's some opportunity for the board to ask questions, dialogue, ask the public for any questions, and then a roll call vote will happen after each section. So again, not trying to talk down anyone, I just figured to help level the playing field a little bit, since this could be a little bit new this evening. So under board of directors report, we talked about policies earlier. We talked about that 5-year review cycle and then the policy committee. And then after the policy committee, the policies go on the board meeting for the first month for consideration, and then the second month they become official. So you can see under item B, that's the first reading of our policies. So these are brand new policies, and item C are second readings. Those were on those items or those policies were already presented last month, and they're on for any final additions before they become official. So we are in the process of doing our 600s policies, which is all our financial policies. And so Ms. Del Guerrico has been the one that's really been spearheading reviewing these policies. So I will turn it over to Nicole to review the item B policies.
Thank you. So in section B, you'll see, and as goes with the typical 5-year cycle, a lot of things change. So a lot of these changes are simply bringing the policy up to date. And I'll kind of go into that. So as far as like state policy 609 investments, changes to this policy are not new permissible investments, but simply it's carving out additional detail for your reference to options that are already available to us. As far as investments in the school district, we have to be a lot more reserved than say you would be with your typical or your personal investments. We can't go out and make risky investments because they are taxpayer dollars. The policy 610 is purchases subject to bid and quotation. Changes to this policy are simply rephrasing the bid thresholds. You've seen the old policy, it simply said 18,500, which was the original base bid back in the day. But every year the PA Bulletin releases an updated bid thresholds. So this is kind of just referencing the bid that PA Bulletin. It also notes that electronic bidding from 6 years ago to present day, and it kind of really started during COVID. Electronic bidding and openings have become a common practice versus everybody traveling and sitting in the room and opening in front of people. So purchase is budgeted. Each year the board approves an annual budget. This basically is allowing us to, policy 611, this is just removal of a duplicated item in policy 610. And we'll jump to policy 612, purchase is not budgeted. This is minor, but it's simply clarification that budgeted funds are allocated not only on the building level, which it currently states, but also at a district-wide level. Say, for example, the business office. We have some different account codes that kind of go district-wide, not just say where we're located in intermediate and middle school. So policy 625, this actually went through a first reading, and there were some suggestions by the board and the team. Include a sentence noting that employees must immediately reimburse if they make an unauthorized purchase with a P card. So they go out somewhere and instead of filling up gas with a personal card, they use our card. When they get back, they have to immediately reimburse it. So that's kind of a statement that's been added. So we jump to section C. This is the second reading. If you got approved tonight, it will become official. Item 605, 607, and 608, there were no changes. It's just part of the annual cycle, so we present them to you. Policy 606, these changes simply include bringing the policy up to date with the current tax collection entities. There's Bucks County Tax Collection Committee or in addition to, say, the district council collecting the real estate taxes. Policy 808, you'll see that is out of sync. It includes the SSO program, so you'll learn with the National School Lunch Program. There's different programs that are underneath that umbrella. All of you that have children within the district know that they're getting free meals this year. So the policy did not include the SSO program, and we undergo an administrative review every so many years. So that was one of their recommendations to update the policy to include the current program. In Title I, this is also out of sync, but no changes. It's similar to above. It's simply ensuring that we're compliant with the federal program requirements. So we review it annually and make sure that we're okay. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Moving on to committee reports. BCIU, Mrs. Hume.
Hi, good evening, everyone. The BCIU Board of Directors last met on Thursday, November 18th. I've submitted the written report so you can see the detail of that if you follow the link on your board agenda. The one additional item I wanted to highlight for folks is that based on mandates, newly elected board members and re-elected board members, which doesn't apply to us, that's not the composition of our new folks, you're all newly elected, there is required training that you must go through. And I don't know if that's been covered already in your orientation, but I felt it was important to ensure that all of us knew on January 12th is when the BCIU is hosting that training. Dinner will be provided if you choose to attend on site, which is strongly encouraged. So that's Wednesday, January 12th. It's 5 hours worth of training that's required. So probably a good idea to mark your calendar for that Wednesday, January 12th. I have one other quick thing. I imagine this will be covered in Mrs. Walliser's report, but the BCIU does advocacy work, and one of the focus areas for their advocacy is right now on cyber charter schools. So I have a handout. You have a handout. Shoot. All right, mine's color. Well, I have. Why don't you go ahead and do it? No, yeah, it belongs more under the Committee on Legislative Action.
No,
I
keep
just
going, please.
should have coordinated. Well, I'll just hand it out and let you talk about it. So other than those two highlight items and what you see in writing online there, I have nothing additional to report. The December meeting of the BCIU Board of Directors is almost always canceled. It will be canceled this year. And so the next meeting of that group is Thursday, January 20th. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll hand this out while you talk.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, BCTC, Mr. Sheets had to step out. First, earned income tax, Mr. Hvac, anything to?
No, so I have nothing to report. The next scheduled meeting is Thursday, December 16th.
Thank you. All right, Mrs. Walliser, Council on Legislative Action.
So there was a lot, and there is a lot going on in the world of education and all the different bills that are trying to be passed. And our Hvac has certainly been working really hard to advocate for our local school districts. Some of the paperwork that I passed out to you, I thought were some great talking points to take out into the community. Obviously, charter schools has been very controversial. Currently, we've seen since 2020 to 2021, there's been a 50% increase in the amount of public school students that are enrolling in cyber charter schools. And this is resulting in an additional $11.7 million to public schools that we have to find the funding for that to pay for them. And I think what most of the public doesn't realize is that for a Berks County child or student to go to a cyber school, it costs their home district $13,000 and 515 cents for a regular education student. Now, if it's a special education student, it's $32,025. And why this is so unfair is, especially for the special education students, whether that child is receiving 1 hour of speech and language services or whether they're receiving 15 hours of special education services, that charter school is getting paid the same amount. And it is not fair. And so what Governor Wolf is proposing, so how do we solve this problem, is that there could possibly be a flat rate that he is going to be suggesting of $9,500 for each cyber school student that the public school would be responsible for. PASTA does believe in this, believes it has some merit, and could definitely help with implementing a more fair budgeting practice for them. Another thing that shocked me was the cyber charter schools. So there's 14 of them in Pennsylvania, and only 4 of them had a 70% or higher graduation rate, according to the Pennsylvania Department of Ed. So that means 10 of those 14 cyber schools were less than 70% in graduation rates. In fact, many of them were between 30 and 50% graduation rate. So clearly, the quality of education is not comparing to what we are able to provide here in the public school setting. So the Council of Legislative Action, again, is really pushing hard to get that word out there that there needs to be a much more fair funding solution for that. The other part that I gave you has to do with special ed mandates. Again, sorry, special ed is kind of my favorite thing to talk about. You know, it's my world. So one of the things with the special education issue is that, again, people don't realize so many of the mandates that are coming onto our local schools are from the federal and state level. And there are so many mandates here in Pennsylvania that are much more than what is required on the federal level. For example, students with a disability should be reevaluated every 2 years here in Pennsylvania, but it's really 3 years according to federal law. All of these different requirements that I have listed here, it's just adding to the amount of time and instruction that these teachers are having to do to meet these federal rules, regulations, and requirements. And as you can see from the chart, it's costing us millions and millions of dollars. So I just wanted to put that out there for you. And another thing that was really eye-opening to me, obviously we all know about the teacher and staff shortages that are going on. So in 2009 to 2010, Pennsylvania universities certified over 40,000 teachers per year. Pennsylvania was one of the largest exporters of teachers on the East Coast. Today, Pennsylvania is certifying 14,000 teachers per year. Obviously, substitute teachers are also in short supply. And this is what I really wanted to hone into you as school board members. It is only logical that personnel costs will increase at a higher rate in the future than they did in the past 10 years. We have got to be ready. We've got to be ready to be willing to pay our staff in order to stay competitive in this market where teachers are so short. So, there's also more information on the back, again, about the cyber schools and how much we pay for them, but I just thought that this would be interesting for you guys to read a little bit more in depth at a later date. Those were just the main issues. And then our next meeting is in Tuesday, February 8th. And I also want to say I'm always so proud because Mr. Pottinger is one of the co-chairs of COLA and always is part of giving these amazing presentations where we learn so much. So thank you for always advocating for our local districts here.
Thank you, Ms. Walliser. Thanks for bringing this informative information back. That was great. Just to bring some local numbers to this, because this is really important. This is the Berks County data. What happens with these Berks County average numbers, obviously the bigger school district you get, the smaller your per pupil costs go down. So you have to spread that across. So for what our numbers are, our regular ed cyber charter is at $17,710, and our cyber charter special ed cost is $39,935. So ours are even higher than what this is here. I was gonna share this later on this evening, but it is very pertinent to share now. Just as a recap, last year when COVID happened, obviously it was a little bit of a whole different scenario, but we had 250 students that would have went to cyber charter last year. They went to our virtual academy because we have a virtual academy. That was something that we started many years ago. It has served us very well over the years in terms of providing an alternate to cyber charter. It's morphed itself into providing all kinds of neat opportunities for students to take online classes. Last year, it was even more of a financial windfall, if you will, and saving grace that we were able to have the virtual academy, because if those students would have went to cyber charter, it would have cost the district, what we saved, this is what we saved, it would have cost us more than this. We saved $3,425,000 and $3.4 million, sorry. 3.4 million is what we saved. So when we take our costs out of it, we save 3.4 million. So Ms. Waller, you just talked about the success rates of cyber charter. Our success rate with those 250 kids, we had an 87% completion rate and the average grade was 83.57. So our program's working. It saved us $3.4 million last year, and it is one that has provided a lot of opportunities for students. We talked about that, I think it was a June board meeting, but I thought it was relevant to bring back to light just because we have an agenda item this evening to talk about that in personnel, but in relation to this presentation, it's a great opportunity to share some of the specifics. So.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Thank you. Policy committee, you have anything to?
No, nothing further.
Add to strategic planning and goals, Mrs. Eisenhart. All right, Mr. Sheets, have you step out? And building and construction committee, Mr. Pottinger.
So this is a good opportunity. In your packet this evening is some additional handouts. I did put in here a change order log. And before I get to that, your very last sheet is a board contact information sheet. So it has the information for all the board members on here to be able to contact each other. It has the elected dates when the term expires, some addresses and some stuff. So that's in there for all board members. Again, that's the very last sheet. But what I would like to do is just spend a few minutes talking about the change order log for those board members that are new. Last meeting we went through a change order log that our architect firm KCBA presented. A lot of feedback was given to myself of how we could refine that. So I went back to KCBA and shared that feedback with them. This project here in the intermediate middle school is a pretty neat transformation of the space. It's come along with some headaches along the way. It's come along with some hidden surprises, which you would anticipate when you open up a wall and you find a beam here you didn't expect, those sort of things. That's completely understandable. There are some other ones that were misses in terms of design misses that were not included as part of the project, and those are some of the change orders that are a little bit frustrating. So the layout of this document, the first page is a summary, as you can see there, what the contract dollars are, the change order amounts. So the change order amounts graph, just want to point out to you that it has a top number of 90,000. That is not accurate. So that is something I've asked them to adjust. I wasn't able to get an updated copy, but just so you have the numbers, the general, and you don't have to write these down because I'll walk you through this in a second, but the general change orders are at 134,000 right now. Mechanical is 28,000, plumbing is 26,000, so the total is 188,000 in change orders. If you flip back to the first page, there are 2 pages per contractor. So there's a general contractor who basically oversees the majority of the project. That has the first page, which at your bottom right is listed as page 2, is the actual change orders. And so you can see there the 134,000. It's at 4.55% of the overall project cost so far. And on the back of that page is the contingency allowances. So what contingency allowances are, as part of the contract, there was essentially this contingency allowance for buffer that they bid out certain things. So this is going to be a terrible example because it doesn't fall under general contractor, but there might be a contingency allowance for additional wire for electrical contractor, or under general there might be a contingency allowance for additional concrete. And so there's some things that are put in here, which concrete's one of them, that under the contingency allowance for Bracy construction under general, they use the exterior concrete slab work for contingency. So that we don't pay that out in addition. It gets used as part of this slush money, if you will, just in case something would happen. But the first page change orders are things that we have to pay above and beyond the contract. If we don't spend all our contingency dollars, those come back to us and would help offset some of these change orders. So the second one then is the plumbing contractor. That's with J.R. Reynolds. And again, similar format. So page 4 is the change orders. Page 5 is the contingency allowances. Excuse me. They're at 26,000. That's at 6.4% of the contract, just because it's a smaller contract. So 26,000 in comparison to all the others, it's a pretty small amount. But their contract the entire contract, you can see there and highlighted in yellow, was only 406,000. The third one is the Vico Mechanical, so they're the ones doing all the HVAC upgrades. They have 28,000 change orders. That's about 2.09%, and that's off the $1.3 million contract. And then they have some contingency allowances in there as well. Those are some things that were added and were acceptable to be used as contingency. And then finally, we have ACE, who is our electrical contractor. So when there's a construction project, there's 4 different primes, they call them, or 4 different companies that you have to separate out the project. And so that's a general contractor. We walk that through the plumbing, the HVAC, and then the final one is the electrical. So there are no change orders for electric, but that's because they all fall under the contingency allowance. So there are 4 of them there under contingency allowances. That is the change orders to date. The very last page, page 10, is a summary of all the change orders in numerical order. They're not listed by specific prime. They're just all of the orders as they've come up throughout the year. This is not all of them. There's still a lot that are still hanging out there that are not included in this. So more to come. I'll keep providing this update to the board as we finalize the project here. Any questions on this document or the layout? Is that easier to read, easier to understand?
So you're saying the total change order to date is 188,000?
So what I did is I just went through and took on each sheet of these, the change orders, totals, and then added them up. And that's how I got through 188.
And did you have to do the math of the percentage against the whole project?
I didn't do the math to the percentage of the whole project. No.
Okay.
I thought about that in the middle of doing it, and honestly, in the middle of doing it, 10 other things I forgot about. I'm sorry. I wanted to do that.
Well, it's not going to be any higher than the highest. So it's going to be less than 6.4% for sure.
And the Race C is 4.55, which is the biggest chunk of the contract. Because their contract was almost 2.9 for 2.9.
The change orders, were they required because of oversight from the architect's original design, or they thought they were going to be, or was it our request? How do they come about?
That's a great question. So I also included this document for you, which is a summary of the contract. It's just page 23. We've been working with KKLL to go through these change orders because that is part of our concern. There's essentially 4 types. There's an owner requested, as Mr. Hefner, you were saying, are those things that we asked for. There's an unforeseen. So one of them you'll notice on here is like asbestos, or there was a steel beam. Things like that are classified as unforeseen. There's a value-added change order. So if the architect missed something, so like one of them, if I can just find it quickly, if you flip on page 2 and come down to GC006, it's listed as a C. It's kind of like a yellowy orange color. That is a value-added change order. So the architect did not include painting the stairwells and some of the corridors. They forgot to paint the band wing and some of the stairwells. So that gets classified as a value-added change order because it is one that, while they forgot it, the claim is that if it would have been in the contract, we would have been paying more regardless. So that's the logic behind the value-added change order. Again, we've been back and forth with legal to try to contest that, but really there's not a lot to be able to contest on that. What they do have there is a clause, though, that the architect firm would be responsible for 15% of that change order, which essentially is the markup. So in any of these change orders, there's a maximum of 15% markup that can also be applied by the different primes. These dollars reflect that markup already, but the architect firm would be responsible for 15% of that. And then the final one is D, no value change orders. So a great example of that, well, it's not documented yet. In our LGI, where we used to have our board meetings, if anyone remembers that space, it's a step up space. And what they marked as the ceiling height was the ceiling height that was at the base, at the lowest point, but where it was marked on the plans was the highest point. So when you walked in, your ceiling was like this, like you could go in and touch the ceiling because they didn't mark it at the right elevation. So all of that ceiling work had to get ripped down, had to get put back up to the correct elevation. There's no value added to that. Like, we were gonna get a ceiling no matter what. So that's a no value change order that would not fall back to the district. So that's kind of the rationale behind the contract language. It's painful. It's painful. And each time we have a change order, I fight them. I really put the architect through the ringer. I got a call the other day that there was another issue. The one of the HVAC units, they found a steel behind it. And the first thing I said was like, "You gotta be kidding! Like, how are you having another miss that's going on again?" So I'm frustrated by the change orders. Again, when you look at it, it's a nice space and it's going to last the district a long time, but it's a painful process to go through. And how many we asked at the last page there? 30 some? 35 right now? That's presented to you this evening.
Are these predicated on any inspections by particular trades? In other words, do we have a plumbing inspector coming in here and he looks at something and says, well, that's not right? Who did that?
There have been a few that are like that. There were a few. I would have to go back and dig that out. Mr. Wetzel, do you remember any change orders that were relative to inspections? There was one with the sink, the mixing valve in the sink in the LGI.
There was a change in the plywood for the auditorium by the inspector to
Yep.
go to fireproof OSB.
They needed fire rated plywood in the auditorium instead of just regular plywood for the stairs that were built.
So it was already up?
It was up.
Has to come down, new stuff goes up.
Yeah.
Who pays for that?
We do. That is a value added.
How can that be value added?
Because it's a fire retardant plywood.
Well, yeah, but if it was originally specified as fire retardant.
You would have paid for
or
it.
It wasn't, and then it wasn't specified to be fire retardant, I'm assuming.
That is right, that is the architect's fault.
So it's the
So
architect's
they're
fault.
paying 15%.
Okay, so the architect had to pay
Yes,
for that mistake.
they will, yes.
Okay.
50% of it. We paid for the majority of it.
How does that work?
It doesn't.
I mean, holy cow.
It's the contract though. Because the contract on what they thought was going to be allowable was that regular plywood was going to be allowed. And then when the inspector came in and said, nope, it has to be fire rated plywood, it's a change. And so because we're getting more value out of having fire rated plywood, believe me, the same question you guys are asking are the ones that I probe back to them because I'm equally frustrated.
I'm assuming this was a bid option here for KCBA. You had other architects that were bidding on doing the work for a while, correct?
Yeah. We had a committee that came together of board representatives that interviewed the architects. And during that interview process, we were, I'm not sure if that's the right word, told that we specifically asked about change orders. That the change orders are going to be held to a minimum. We're not experiencing.
Is this the lowest bidder?
For the architect firm or for the companies?
The architect.
No, that wasn't, I don't know what the fees were associated with that. That's not done on a bid like RFP process, like the construction project. It's not, because it's a service, a professional service.
Should it be?
Should it have been?
No.
We went through a whole RFP process and we toured the facility with all the different architect firms. And then we went through a whole interview process, and pricing was one of the categories that we used to determine the actual architect that we chose, but it wasn't the sole factor. So like when we went with Gracie Construction, that was pretty much the sole factor for pricing for the contract. That's because it was an official RFP process. We did go through an RFP and had a rating scale, but as part of that rating scale, we were able to use a rating scale.
And this was our second go around because our last architect we had for the elementary school renovations, we also ran into problems. So we thought we would.
Well, there's always
switch gears
gonna be problems, seen and unseen. And from my experience, I would expect that there should have been some kind of contingency in there that would more than take care of 15%. Now, it's too late. I don't understand. Where do we stand for any future projects?
So,
Is there anything else in line coming on the thing that we have to be concerned about?
so we have a future project. We've decided to go down the route of an ESCO project, which is what we had done when we put the air conditioning in down to the elementary school. And it's an energy savings. When it's mechanical, you can use an energy savings contractor. And it is there's no change orders at all. There's by law, no change orders. So that's why we decided to go down there.
And we have done that with this?
No.
Okay. So it's simply because of the type of contract that we have?
Yeah, because there's not an energy savings in this project. But that's why we decided to shift gears, because we were.
How close are we to completion?
Well, we were supposed to be completed. Mr. Wetzel, how close are we to completion?
99.5%.
I think you're pretty optimistic, sir.
I was not counting punch list.
I'd say we're about 85 to 90% complete with the punch list that needs to get done. So the punch list is all the extra things that still have to, like when we see molding that's not quite right, we allow them. They can fix it. We tell them they have to fix it.
So the 188,000 to date is the maximum that we have to extend?
That's just the date. There's more coming. There's definitely more coming.
More change orders coming. And what was their budget in that, for that overall?
For the change orders?
Yeah.
We didn't have a budget for the change orders. Contingencies. If this document is right, it would be the allowance totals on the summary page there under green. And so it would be, looks about 90,000.
90,000, but we're at 188 now.
We're at 188. And we've used some of that. We've used about, looks like 40-ish, just over 40,000 already. So we have about 50,000 allowances left to offset the 188.
How does this fall into the budget then for overall expenses?
So we're going to end up using our capital reserve fund and our fund balance to offset these items. So we have to pool money for that. The problem is it's going to start taking away from the next project because you have to steal Peter to pay Paul.
What's the next project?
The next project is to do Hvac upgrades in this building. They're the classroom units upstairs in the 4th and 5th grade intermediate wing. You can get replaced. The air conditioner chiller at the high school is starting to fail, so we need to replace that. Those are the HVAC, and then the other one is the auditorium lighting at the high school is in desperate need of an upgrade.
Is there a forward schedule of when that should start, or would we like to start it, or should we start it? Or?
That project is out for RFP right now. And so because we're going through an ESCO, it's a little bit of a different process. And what I mean by that is we scoped out what the project is. And when we would go through a normal project, we would scope it out, the contractors would bid on it, and you have to have crystal clear plans before you can get change orders. This process is different, where you scope it out, the companies go through, investigate, come up with their best proposals, and then we can interview the companies and pick which company we want to go with, and then we can really refine the scope and hone in exactly what we want in terms of the type of material, or the HVAC specific HVAC unit we want to go with, or we can tweak anything. Once we tweak that, whatever those priorities are within our budget and within what we want to accomplish, that's locked in, and that's where no change orders happen. So step one is to put an RFP out for the company. Step two is the company creatively comes up with how we're going to solve your problem of our priority list. We interview the companies, we select the company, we refine the priority list, and then the project starts. and that's locked in with no change orders. So that's the difference in terms of what we're going through now, which is we work through a whole design with the architect. That goes on the street, the company's bid on it. If there's any issues, that's where all the change orders happen. So that's what we're dealing with now, but we're going down the road of the ESCO project.
Okay.
So I guess my question would be to Mr. Pratt. In the future, is there anything that we could put in the contract to protect us more from the situation that we're in right now?
You could have, but I don't think you would have had architects agreeing to what you would have done to protect yourself. Because you had to give and take. So the language that you see now is modified from what we have put would be the typical form language that you would see in the AIA contract. But it's the trade definitions. And so you're just going with we've made those modifications, but you also have to realize if you put in a lot of restrictions, the cost that they're going to charge you because of those restrictions would be higher. So you have to look at what your contract's going to be and what architects are willing to agree to go forward, or their cost is going to be higher too because they're going to be taking more chances. So they're going to try to recover that on the front end just in case they have to spend it on the back end. So
And at least we could have budgeted for that.
Correct, you could have, but in an umpteen number of projects that I've dealt with, no one sits there and goes, oh yeah, we're going to have this much money in change orders. It's just that, in certain projects and certain things, especially in renovations, you're going to have additional costs above and beyond if there's a new build. If you have a new build, there's really hardly any change orders. But in the case of a renovation, because of some of the things that you find, some of the things that were identified, could there have been a better job? Yes, there could have been a better job, but in the end, though, some of these that you're looking at you're going to be receiving some reimbursement from the architect based on that. And your administration is doing a very good job of challenging, because when a contractor provides a change order, it goes to the architect for review. Then also as a district, we get their review and challenge that as well. And I think your administration is doing a good job, just based on my conversations with them, that they're doing a good job of at least asking questions, challenging, and not just trying to say, here you go, move forward with it. So you do a good job of that.
So there's nothing additionally legally we could do?
Not at this
to
point,
kind of
no.
put some
Not based on the
pressure them
information.
to start making things right.
Not based on the information that we have, that if someone did something egregious or negligent.
So we did work with KKLO when we got the original contract, and we spent about 2 weeks going through that contract, fighting back and forth with the KCBA to get to this, because we were trying to put it harder. Exactly what Mr. Pratt said. It was a good 2-week process before we even got there last winter, spring. Because this is the questions we asked. Like, we wanted to make sure that this was, if you remember, rewind yourselves back a year ago, we were, like Mr. Ligon said, we were with a different firm. We weren't super happy, so we said, well, let's make sure we have this thing really locked and crystallized. And that's when we worked with them to develop that contract, and then we go with Hvac. So this was kind of the best we could get out of them in terms of that contract. And to Mr. Pratt's point, I have been pushing back very, very hard on KCBA every time they come in with a change order. I question it. I want to see all the detail. If there's not detail behind it, I'm not signing it without the detail. I want to see the hours. I want to see the cost of material. I've been really fighting back on these things. It's really irritating. To the point where we usually do it at Shadine's desk, and Shadine now is the awkward conversation. She just exits left and goes over and talks to Maria. Am I correct? I really make it awkward for them, and I push back very hard at them because it just doesn't sit well with me. It's taxpayer money. And that's what I keep telling them. You can give me these change orders for $20,000 or $15,000, but this is absurd. Do you understand? This is taxpayer money. So, yes, I mean, be frustrated.
It's hard because a lot of it we would have been paying for it anyway because it was stuff that we were finding that we had no
no control over. A lot of the, they opened a wall, oops, and found something they didn't know was there, so we still would have been paying for it, but, what would we have lost because of that?
Yeah, we got it with the elementary school too.
We did, yeah.
Maybe not to this level, but it was painful at first as well.
It was, yeah.
I mean, the entry project, they had quoted us 800,000 and they came back.
It was like 600, they came back at 1.2 or 1.3.
So there was no change orders there, but it was double the price that we had.
This cut the scope.
Are we ever trying to get a not to exceed contract?
For the building project?
We're not putting on, you give an estimate how much it's going to cost based on the architect said.
Right.
So you let it out to the contractor not to exceed.
We did not do that now.
I recommend you try it next time.
Yep. I'm absolutely open to anything we can do to make this a smooth project.
Anything additional?
That is it.
For that
That is it. For that section.
Yeah.
Board of Directors section.
Any additional board discussion? You get it?
We are under, at the very end of committee reports.
We're still early on here, Liz.
Whoa, page two.
Do a roll call, please.
Mrs. Eisenhart?
Yes.
Mr. Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Hohenschel?
Yes.
Mrs. Hume?
Yes.
Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens? Mrs. Wallweiser? Yes. Mr. Wagman?
Yes.
8 yeas, motion passes.
All right, business and operations report. Can I get a motion and a second?
Moved, Eisenhart.
Second, Wallweiser.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So I'll kind of go through the operations report, business operations report. So kind of the first two sections, you'll see there's what is called the bills list, which is items A through D. And kind of what we had talked about before, there's different funds within a school district. The general fund is the kind of the massive budget that we approve annually. But then we also have the food service fund, which is kind of a standalone. It almost operates like a business kind of fund. And then you have the construction fund and the capital reserve. The construction fund is where the big projects are going on, one that we just spoke about at length. And then also the capital reserve is kind of the savings account for smaller capital projects, or if we would need additional funds for the current projects. So you'll kind of see items A through D. These are the bills. You'll see there's an extensive list of all the bills that we basically paid within the last month. It's kind of in accordance with Board Policy 616, which is payment of bills. Basically, that says that we can send out the check as it becomes due, and then you approve after the fact as long as it has been budgeted for and we have good funds available. So when you go through that, you get the agenda beforehand. If you have any questions, obviously you can always send us an email asking for further clarification. Some of these vendors, they're recurring, so you'll kind of get used to seeing them over and over again. So those are items A through D. Item E, it's kind of twofold this month, and I'll speak about that. Typically, you'll see the financial reports monthly, so we're up to October for that. And then you also see June. So earlier in this fiscal year, we had approved June, which is pre-audit. That's before we go undergo the annual audit, and there's a lot of rules and year-end adjustments that we make. So this is the June financial reports, treasurer's reports after the audit. So these are the actuals. These aren't just what we stand, as today. So you'll see item 1 is the general fund. I'll kind of speak about that one real quick. So if you go to kind of the post audit, you can kind of see where we came in budgeted to actual. We came in about 1.3 million revenue over expenditures from what we had anticipated. So you'll see later in the agenda that we're going to move some money around to various funds and kind of earmark them for future uses. So the food service fund, the construction fund, capital reserve. You also see the investment schedule. That's all the money that we currently have. The district this time of year, we have a lot more money on hand. I should say invested because of the real estate taxes. And as the year goes on, that will kind of moving down more toward our actual fund balance. Student activities and trust report, that is, we're kind of the fiduciary, we kind of oversee the activities that go, the activities and scholarships that go through the district, just to make sure that they're being spent wisely. And also the budget transfers, there's nothing this month. Toward the end of the year, we'll kind of do a sweeping budget transfer to go over any accounts that are overdrawn, but still within the budgetary constraints. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on those.
There's a lot of information here. Is there, like, high level, anything material that came up after the audit that required adjustments that should be highlighted for us?
Yeah, so there's nothing, I would say, material out of the ordinary. Like I said, we did come in 1.3, pretty good on what we had anticipated. We did kind of speak about, the Fulton issue, which kind of held things up. As far as where we saw a lot of savings is also it was a COVID year, so we didn't have a lot of the operational costs that we typically would have as far as fuel and transportation. If the kids are hybrid, obviously, or they're virtual, we had no transportation costs. We saw a lot of savings there. That 1.3 is not normal. So this year it might be a little tighter, and as you can see in prior years, it'll be tighter. So you'll see in the future again, we're kind of asking for board approval to move some of that money to the capital reserve for that ESCO project, and also to set aside money for some future salary increases. That's kind of where that went. Does that answer your question?
I think so, yeah. I mean, anything in addition to that might be discrepancies. But in terms of what we historically have gotten used to, I think that number, correct me or guide me, was closer maybe to 700,000 to 800,000 in the past handful of years.
Yes.
So this is considerably larger of a surplus, if you will, than what the district is used to seeing, correct?
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to the COVID year. Say I look back, I think, say the last 4 or 5 years, I would say anywhere between, $500,000 and $1 million is kind of the norm. Obviously, because you want to stay conservative, but you also can't exceed your budget. So there is that variance. And as you know, people not filling positions, hires, whatnot, or you had a nice winter where, you didn't spend as much on heating. So there's a ton of variables that go into it. But as far as the audit itself, the audit was clean, obviously, except for that one hiccup, to new all of our own. So nothing major to report on that one.
And last year with COVID, we did a period of time where we didn't have transportation for a quarter of the year. So that was a significant saving as well as our professionals. So that was a huge staff savings for us, which ballooned into some of the reason for the excess this year compared to the normal years, as you mentioned. Yeah, kind of its own separate thing, but yeah, that also had a ripple effect as well.
So we move on to item F. This is special education people services. So we use Sweet Stevens, Captain Williams as our counsel for any matters related to special education services. Say we've used them for at least 10 years now. So this is to approve the continuation of our current agreement. It's actually for the 22-23 school year. We typically approve it this time of year. While we don't like to see an increase in rates, I would say this is the first increase we've had in 7 years with them. So that's something to acknowledge. That's on item F. So item G, items 1 and 2 are kind of related. You'll see back on the October agenda, you had approved Elements Audio Video to complete the audiovisual project within this room. At a cost about $48,000. Now there was some discrepancy, which is why it's on the agenda tonight, about if they were part of an approved co-op. One of their sister companies is, but they are not. So we had to go out and do a formal RFP process, which is the results you can see in item 2. There was 2 companies, Elements and also another company, I believe they were located out of Texas, which kind of missed the mark entirely as to what we were requesting. So we are asking for approval to go with Elements as initially had planned. So item 3 is to approve a 3-year agreement with Nimble IT Solutions. They provide our IT services. We are currently in year 3 of a 3-year agreement, which We transitioned to them from prior information group during the summer of 2019. While I haven't been here all that long, you can hear just the comparison of prior services. There's been a significant improvement in the services that we are currently receiving. So you'll see there is kind of an increase in about anywhere from 4.1% over the next 3 years. There's multiple reasons for that. They're actually taking over some additional services. They're now going to oversee our district's VoIP phone system, the Raptor security, which you kind of see when you swipe in as a visitor, run background checks. So those are 2 additional items that will take over that are a pretty significant undertaking. And then also there's, the typical increase, retain your staff, cost of living increase. But I would say the 4% will yield have a much greater output than if we would actually, go back to people that we've used in the past. So I think it's a pretty good partnership. I think Tom, if he was here, he would agree.
He's not very
But so if you have any questions on that.
And Nicole, okay, I'm sorry.
Well, go ahead. Maybe you'll answer my question.
Yeah, the other piece that we get out of this is they also service the Reading School District, and so we get buying power. And so when we have to buy computers, which we're in the process of upbeing our computers to the next iteration of staff and student computers, we get the buying power, so that will more than offset just by lowering the per unit device on this contract. So we will do a position just because of that.
My question was related to the comments about incremental services, the Raptor, and what was the other?
Our phone system.
VoIP, yeah, VoIP, voice over IP. Those were in-house maintenance tasks. We're now outsourcing them as part of this contract. Who does that free up? Like what role or responsibility in-house does that free up and create bandwidth for?
That was what Mr. Wetzel it helps them just be able to manage those, especially with all the building projects and everything.
Okay. Are we not getting as much in it's it is cheaper, $2,000 cheaper is it the same thing?
Yes, I think obviously with the fluctuation in costs or supplies nowadays, I guess we were lucky in that regard. It could have went both ways. Just from current product costs at 28 quarter, that's a little bit cheaper. So.
That's good. And Brandon, did we get all our computers you just mentioned computers? Like, have we gotten all the computers in yet or no?
I don't have the answer. I can find out that. I don't remember. I haven't had an update from Mr. Whitford.
The only reason I said I don't think so is when we met the other day, I asked that same question, but I don't think all of my part.
There is a notation in the superintendent's report, if I'm not mistaken, that says due to supply chain issues, there's been delays. I don't know if we're talking the same thing, but
yeah. I know it's one of the things that's still been lingering out there, and it's part of the reason when we approved the budget this year, we approved to buy those devices early, so we didn't have to wait till July 1 and then try to get them in, and then try to image them before the students got here. So there was a purposeful shift of dollars 6 months early.
All right, so moving on to item H1 is to approve an agreement with Health Environmental Services to dispose of chemistry, biology, lab, and film development chemicals at an estimated cost of $6,275. This is something that is done very periodically. I think the last time was about 10 years ago. So basically, they come in. You obviously can't just throw away chemicals into the typical trash. So they come and get rid of old and obsolete chemicals that we no longer use in our daily instruction. So we reached out to 4 local districts, for a referral company, and all 4 districts came back with the same company. So that's what we're going with. You might see this again on the agenda when they're done. There might be some, small nominal costs in the future, but for the most part, it's going to be about $6,200. So item 2 is to approve. You typically see the large amount during the red tag sale during summer. This is to approve some unneeded, unused items for the school district to be sold or disposed of properly for H2. These are some items you'll see that are accumulating in the business office conference room. Some miscellaneous chairs, some desks, kind of become like the storage area. So we're going to try to clean that out. You'll also see we're going to put the 2003 Ford van. That's the one that food service was using that no longer runs, that they're gonna put on municipal bid, and try to get rid of them, get a few dollars for it. And also the cleaner, you'll see that on there as well. And then item 3 is the change orders.
And just if I can interject, so we had the opportunity, we had a clean, we got a grant through the state to be able to upgrade some of our equipment, particularly in the wood shop, we got a brand new cleaner for that space, which is pretty awesome. So that one was probably from 1960, so it's nice to be able to, to upgrade that, especially since we can't get some parts for it. So there are change orders. They're all related to the mechanical contractor, A, B, and C. A is for upstairs. There was a larger office space that got, with the opening of the common spaces, got moved into a smaller office space. They left the same air conditioner unit in there, but because it was so small of a space with the amount of force that that unit had, they had to re-divert ducting. So they put some in the hallway as well as some into the the custodian closet to just be able to offset some of that load to make it run properly. So we're trying to save us money, but in the end, it cost us a change order because it was too powerful in the unit. B was they're in the process of changing and putting the outdoor bathrooms in where the weight room is, or the wrestling room is. There was a leftover, fairly new HVAC unit, and so we asked them to have that put back into the wrestling room area. We noticed over the summer that the wrestling room area, it's completely dark, there's no windows or anything, and we have brand new wrestling equipment in there that was starting to rust because it was so humid and dark and no ventilation in there.
Yeah, so this says weight room.
I meant weight room. Sorry, I used the wrong term. Weight room. So that got moved to the weight room to help offset that and better protect the equipment in there and give a little bit of a better environment. The cost is pretty high, and unfortunately, it's mostly driven by Honeywell, who is the controller and is proprietary, and you get stuck with the cost. It was pretty painful. And so that one was a change order. That was a district change order. There's not many, but that was one of them. And then the final one is the STEM, is the adjusted ductwork in the STEM classroom, which we talked about earlier, and I used my example of when we were talking about contracts.
Before we jump past this, I would just, like procedurally, like to make a suggestion. We've got some new players on the building construction committee team. I don't know if there's a threshold dollar amount, at which point maybe those committee members should be polled to see if they support the recommendation before it's brought to the full board. So I just, having been a former member, there were times where we were heavily used, and then since those times we haven't been used at all. And for certain dollar amounts, $17,000 feels high to me, to kind of just come to the board without any background discussion from the committee. So I would just encourage the full board and the administration to leverage the committee structure that we have in place that we just reiterated this evening.
I don't remember the estimate, and it's fair enough, and a great suggestion, and absolutely correct. The estimate we were given was much lower than what the final was because of the Honeywell issue that came in after the fact. So, but point very well taken. Very well taken. Absolutely.
So kind of moving on, items I, J, and K are somewhat related. They are as a result of kind of that 1.3 million to the good that we had as a result of last year following the year-end audit. So typically what happens if we have a surplus, we kind of, there's what is called fund balance, and it's kind of almost 4 buckets. You have unassigned, assigned, committed, and restricted. So you'll see right now that there's 1.1 million that we'll be moving. It's currently sitting in the unassigned bucket. And you kind of want to keep that around, say, like 4%. So we're going to move some of that money. We're going to move 800,000 from unassigned to, we're going to assign it to transferring to the capital projects account, and that is going to help us on the future ESCO project that we had talked about earlier. So once it gets into that assigned bucket, you'll see item K is now this is asking for approval to actually transfer it to a different fund. So kind of jumps buckets, then transfers funds. So item J is Also to assign $300,000 of unassigned fund balance to, we want to designate it as future salary funding stabilization. We talked about earlier, there's some salary increases, and also with PESers and the benefits involved, that's going to cost money. So we want to be prepared for that. We've got a PESers spike assigned fund balance also, and kind of we have that bucket, so we would approve the budget every year. We're not absorbing that, insurmountable kind of roller coaster ride. So it'll help so the 300,000 will help offset those costs for future years. So that's kind of item K, and then L and M, as a result of the election, similar to when you were brought onto the board tonight, we will have a new tax collector. Her name is Susan Davis for District Township. She will be coming on board, and Nancy Hefner will be resigning. She was so gracious to fill in for us, and now she's going to step down. And item N is to approve the updated roster of bus drivers for Brandywine Transportation. You'll see at the beginning of the year before school starts, we'll approve the initial list of Brandywine drivers, and then kind of periodically as the year goes along, drivers come and go, we get more subs, so we'll kind of do a revised list. This list looks rather large, but I will say a lot of them are subs, and a lot of them are kind of subs for both us and Fleetwood. So that's why the list looks fairly long to go around. And that's all I have.
Perfect, thank you. Any additional comments or discussions to the board?
I just have a question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned PESers. I noted in the news that PESers is under investigation by the FBI. Can you enlighten us on what's going on with that?
Yeah, so.
Or maybe that would be a question for Mr. Pratt.
I'll let Nicole go first and fill in. She knows more than me, then she's got something going on. But go ahead.
I was gonna say, I really don't know all that much. I do know they are under investigation, and I mean, to be honest, the little I know is kind of their financial reports of where they stood, and kind of how it affects us is basically, how the investments did over years, and then at the end of the year, they kind of certify the amount that we as a district are going to pay as far as the employer and employee costs, and then I guess once they had started auditing their funds, their amounts were a little different. So I guess now they're under investigation, kind of certifying where their financial reports were. I don't really know too much at all.
It really just has to do with reporting, and when someone says, when your broker tells you that your funds are doing real well, and then in the end, once they go through an audit, they find that they're not doing that well. That's what the FBI is looking into. Was there misleading information that was being provided? Were they doing their fiduciary responsibilities to the school districts in the Commonwealth, and determining whether or not they may have misled some school districts?
Who was responsible for those fiduciary responsibilities?
For the board, PESers board.
I'm sorry?
The PESers board, they have a board of directors. It's their responsibility to make sure to, just like it's your responsibility to look through the financial documents and everything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
From what I can hear, you get the two top guys up here that
Who are going.
they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be unreasonable to suspect that maybe they had more to do with it than the rest?
I don't know that.
Is that what the FBI is investigating?
They're investigating the whole thing, not just those two individuals.
Mr. Pratt, didn't it have something to do with the new employees that are coming in or on a different PESer tier system? And the rate in which they pay PESers their own contribution is based off of the actual returns?
That's what started it all, because the interesting thing was when we as a district had to pay more over the last 10 years, there was never a question. Now all of a sudden employees have to pay more into it. There's a question as to where these numbers are coming from. So that's what really led to the situation.
There's a significant increase in what the contribution is by the teachers now into that fund.
There's not a significant amount. There is an increase above of what whoever's involved, not just the teachers, all public school employees. So once that established, there was questions as to how those numbers came about. So that's what led to the investigation.
How soon are we going to find a conclusion?
Oh, goodness. When you know about the masking mandate, then you'll know about that as well.
Well, that's a different subject for next year.
Yes.
Thank you.
Typically, this time of year, in most years, we probably would have found out right now what our contribution would be for next year. They're required to provide that for us by the end of the year. I've not heard anything. So it's kind of like a safety thing as far as, how this will affect us, at least for next year.
Also understand that there's a lawsuit going on in regards to funding of public schools that is causing a lot of problems with PDE because they have a lot of resources into that. So you have questions as to how school districts are funded, and now you also have an investigation as to how the entire retirement system is set up. Because we've heard the reason why districts had to pay so much is because of the fact that they said that there's not a lot of money there. Now, if people have bought out, they have buyouts and everything, now they're looking into whether or not that was true or not. But there's a number of items going on right now in regard to funding of school districts and impact of school districts. Plus the cyber charter, which we already talked about.
Okay. Anything else? Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Hohenscheld?
Yes.
Mrs. Hume?
Yes.
Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallheiser?
Yes.
Mrs. Eisenhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Heineman?
Yes.
8 yeas, motion passes.
All right, superintendent's report. Can I get a motion in a second?
Second.
Good job.
Yeah.
It's a lot more cut, less cut.
All right,
You're a minute and a half.
under first superintendent report, there's just two items. The one's just approving the district calendar for next year. Just to bring the board up to speed with this, the district has to fill 180 instructional days, and then there's another requirement for hours. So there are two separate requirements. There's 900 hours for our elementary students, K-6, and 990 hours for our secondary students, middle school and high school. So this calendar comprises that. It's a very similar calendar to what has been proposed in previous years, starting that week before Labor Day. The nice part is that we start on a Tuesday, so it's a 4-day week, and then we come back the next week, and it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but until Labor Day. Friday's off. We have a 4-day week for Labor Day. We come back that Tuesday, and it's another 4-day week. So it really gives us a nice gradual start to the school year, three 4-day weeks. And then, forgive me, I don't have it right up in front of me, but I believe it is June 1st that we are done next year.
That's a weird day.
Yeah, it is. It's just the way that it fell. In fact, we even added another day off on the winter holiday just to give a little bit of a buffer. But it still ended up us. I mean, it's on Friday or Thursday. The thing that is nice is that we typically do graduation either a Wednesday or a Thursday based off of Kutztown University. So it gets us a little closer to that in terms of the number of instructional days for seniors. Any questions on the calendar?
So graduation day is what date?
It's typically on a Wednesday or a Thursday. We don't lock it in because of Kutztown University's availability until we find their availability. Mr. Ginch, do you know the graduation date for this coming year yet?
June 1.
June 1.
Tentatively, because once again, we're at the mercy of Kutztown, and every single year we say what the date is, I then find out we can't use the date. So it's a secret, but right now, June 1.
It'll be in the first week of June, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Sometime in
Okay, next we have the program of studies. So this is going to be for next school year. And I'll ask Mr. Ginge to share a few comments about what goes into making the program of studies, the importance of the approval of the program of studies by the board in December, and then some of the next subsequent steps.
Sure. Evening, everybody.
I know there's some new folks, so I kind of wanted to give just a real high level of what the high school program of studies is. It is the book that we use at the high school for our students to choose their courses for the next year. So typically what we'll do in our scheduling process is right now our staff are going through some of the course recommendation processes. So if you're in, we'll say in Algebra 1, your algebra teacher right now is recommending you for what might come next in your math progression. Then based on those recommendations, what we do is we then give our students a copy of our approved program of studies in January. and then our students work with our guidance counselors, myself and Mr. Barnhart, to look at what they want to take next year and then sign up for those courses. So it's kind of funny to go back and look over the years. It used to just be, a 20-page Word document with the numbers of all the classes we took, and it's evolved into now a 73-page, document that really gives the students an idea, a roadmap of what it is they want to do. So it starts out with our graduation requirements, which last year in January, we actually approved a change to our graduation requirements. So next year at the high school, we'll actually have 3 varying sets of graduation requirements because our seniors will not have had to take some of our required courses like freshman seminar. They obviously weren't freshmen, when the course was brought in, but we'll have differing credit requirements. So we wanted to make sure as an administration that we provided each class with specifically what they'll need to get their credits for graduation. And then it's our chance to highlight the descriptions of some of the courses that are going in. So the document itself also has some pieces in there about what courses are weighted, if students are trying to take some of those weighted courses to challenge themselves. And also now there's even pathways where if you have a chosen profession or something that you're interested in doing beyond high school, it gives you some of the best courses that you can take to help put you on that path. Last couple of years too, we've also been able to put in larger pieces about BCTC. So now there's a pamphlet inside our program of studies that highlights every program offered at BCTC. And then more recently has also been the Pennsylvania Act 158, the statewide graduation requirements, which helps our students. So all of our students now have to pass the Keystone, and this tells them in the event that does not happen, which other pathways we can utilize to help them meet that state graduation requirement. So really the first 20 pages of the document kind of give every family a good overview of what you need to do to both graduate from Brandywine Heights High School, but also meet those Pennsylvania state graduation requirements. And then the rest of the document, that we'll say the fun part, is the course descriptions that we work with our department heads and our curriculum and instruction department all throughout the fall, so that now we have course overviews of every course that we take, the prerequisites, and when we want to take them. So just some of the highlights this year, our art department right now has recently revisited some of their courses. So a lot of our art descriptions will be changing. Not necessarily in course material, but they just revamped some of the courses that are there. There's a really neat opportunity next year. We actually were able to purchase a CNC router, which helps machine and manufacture things. We're going to offer a guitar class next year, but as a part of that guitar class, some students we're going to pilot are going to have the opportunity to build the guitar on the CNC router and then learn to play the guitar that they build in that guitar course. So that's a really, really cool offering. Since I've been principal at the high school, each year we've added a computer science course, and we finally reached the culmination of that program. And next year we'd be proud to offer, upon approval, it's called Programming Technologies, a capstone experience. And in this course, it would be the culmination of the 3 previous computer science courses, and it would give our students access to not only pretty cutting-edge software, but then the ability to use it to design apps, use their computers as a web client, and just give them some actual functional elements of that work, so that if they wanted to go into computer science, it could be an option for them. And we've even worked in conjunction with BCTC so that we're not taking from their Tech Academy students, so that the course offering is different as well. Mr. Reed's done a tremendous amount of work with that. And then also I wanted to put in that we've had I had guitar programming technologies and then the art updates that were there. There's a lot of, we'll say we've adapted some of the courses this year, but there's not a tremendous amount of new offerings because we do feel pretty confident that what we have available to the students right now is really sufficient to them. So again, it's a gigantic team effort. I can't, that doesn't happen, all 74 of those pages doesn't happen if it's not from Mr. Pramada, Ms. Usella, all of our department heads, Mr. Volker, Ms. Kircher, all working in conjunction so that it's not just through one person now to really get the best document that's most beneficial for our families. That's all I got, boss.
Any questions from Mr. Judge? Thank you, sir. So that is the program of studies. By you approving that tonight, it will go out to our students. The students will make selections in through January-ish timeline. All their student selections then start to tally up the staffing needs And then that goes full circle to what we talked about at the beginning of the meeting with the board meeting dates and that staffing meeting in March.
I want to make a quick comment about how the virtual academy also had, in that program of studies, there's a whole list of virtual academy programs, and some of them run concurrently to our in-person classroom ones, so that we're creating options for the multitude of student needs.
Sure, absolutely. As I said, since we do work as a team, one of the big pieces of that team is also Mrs. Honish in the Virtual Academy. And what we're able to do is we have a wide variety of offerings through our VHB. I don't know how many it is exactly, Mrs. Honish, but it's a ton. And in the event that a student has a hard time scheduling a certain course because we might only offer a section or two of it, we do have options to have them in the Virtual Academy take that course so that they can still get an AP Environmental Science in addition to their AP US History, even if on their student schedule it didn't work out. So the VA gives us a tremendous amount of flexibility. And actually, one more thing I forgot to add too is we have a large number of dual enrollment agreements with other colleges, with Kutztown, with now Albright, and also through Hvac. And all of those dual enrollment opportunities are highlighted and then explained in that program of studies as well.
Final thing I want to just take a moment to talk about the superintendent's report. Message was set out to our community last Friday relative to the mask mandate. So just to give everyone an update of where we are with that. December 4th was the day in which the masks were to be lifted. The Commonwealth Court came back in and said that, the Supreme Court came back in and reinstated the mask mandate until the court has made this decision on the side of the courts. And so that remains in effect. Opening arguments or arguments will be heard on December 8th. And then it'll kind of be a timeline of see how long that court case runs. At a minimum, if it doesn't happen by January 17th, the governor's office has talked about January 17th as being that timeline for the mask to be lifted. So just as a recap of what that means, it means that it'll fall back to our local health and safety plan. And our local health and safety plan has that masks will be optional for all students. There was a clause in there that there would be a 14-day rolling average, and if there's 5 cases per building, that we would reinstate masks for that specific building. There was a caveat to that that said that would expire 45 days after vaccinations were available for all students, which took place on October 29th. So that date, 45 days from then, is December 12th. So that caveat would fall off December 12th. So somewhere in the timeline. So you mix that in with the court case, mixed in with the governor's piece. Sometime this winter, it's anticipated that will go away. The one thing just to keep in mind, and this is not a substantial mask either way, just something to keep in mind. At the beginning of the school year, our goal is to get kids in school and learning. At the beginning of the school year, when we had 8 days of when it was optional, we had 120 students that were quarantined. And that's because masks were optional. So if I'm wearing a mask, this is the rules, not Brady rules, this is the state rules. If Mr. Wagner is wearing a mask and I'm wearing a mask, and Mr. Wagner is sick, I don't have to quarantine. If I'm wearing a mask and Mr. Wagner decides not to wear a mask under a mask optional environment, then even though I'm wearing a mask, I still have to quarantine. And so that's what shot up the numbers and why we had 120 kids that were quarantined within the first 8 days of school. So it's something that I'm concerned about, quite honestly, because again, our goal is to get kids in school, whether you believe masks will work or not. And that's not really the platform. The platform is how do I get kids educated.
And what was out of those 120, how many phone calls were required?
120. 120 phone calls. It took a lot of effort from our principals to do all that contact tracing, CDHRs, teachers, and then all our nurses that we recognize this evening to be able to go through the process of calling all those families, explaining that to each one of the families, and then our teachers to go in and teach to the classroom as well as virtually to the kids that were home learning. So it did add a whole wrinkle to the process. We're anticipating that pain point coming back to
I
us.
was gonna say, what are we at now? I feel like we're getting.
So with masks on, I don't know what our exact number is right now, but it's starting to creep up.
So since we've returned from the Thanksgiving holiday, we've had 81 students and staff members who've had to quarantine
81.
since returning from Thanksgiving.
So it's something to keep an eye on from a staffing resource. Again, that was a huge burden on our administrative team, the principals in particular, as well as our nurses. So it's something I want to keep an eye on. If we end up going to a mask optional, we're going to end up seeing, if we see what happened at the beginning of the school year and a lot of quarantining bubbling, we might have to look at something to buffer that in order to help with all that contact tracing, because that was a killer. It was weekends, it was every night, it was every weekend, it was like nonstop. So
What does it say about if you're vaccinated? Isn't there something?
if
Because now the option for kids to be vaccinated is there, do you still have to quarantine if you're vaccinated?
if you are vaccinated, you do not have to quarantine.
You need to wear a mask. That could-
So that, which is the reason why we put 40 to 5 days there.
So
That's
if someone's fully vaccinated, the recommendation is they test 2 to 5 days after their exposure. They wear a mask in public for 14 days, and if they display any symptoms, then they must be in the quarantine. If someone's fully vaccinated, so 2 weeks after, or 2 weeks plus after your final shot.
And are these, question, is this mandate, recommendation, suggestion, like for the health department that we have to follow?
Yes.
All of the above?
You're looking at CDC guidelines as well when it comes to your health and safety plan and following the
But we're not-
quarantining and vaccination.
Yeah, but the CDC also recommends you wear a mask and we're going to be wearing a mask.
To recommend it, correct, but when it comes to tracing and following everything, they've established those guidelines that you're.
So, it sounds like there's a lot of moving parts with the court case and with numbers trending in ways that we hope they wouldn't and all that kind of stuff. Might I suggest that, should there be a need to, modify what we're, doing based on what the environment we operate in is suggesting, could we, call a board meeting? Could we ask you as, or the board president to call a board meeting to allow the 9 of us to get together and discuss and debate and share information and come up with a game plan proactively, as opposed to simply falling back to a document that was driven by decisions that were made months ago. In July, let's say.
You would have to call a special meeting that requires 3 board members to call a special meeting. You'd have to advertise it for at least 24 hours. You'd have to put the agenda out that you're going to talk about it, as well as to make considerations of changes, and then you can go ahead that meeting.
So the point is simply, we can't predict from what I'm hearing and seeing. It's almost impossible for us to predict the future. Yet we're gonna rely on a document that was agreed upon under completely different, potentially, circumstances more than 6 months ago. And we know this is a highly contentious, controversial issue. We all have the best intentions. We want to do what's best for our kids. Our job is to do that as a board. I don't know how we can do that effectively if we don't gather and convene, even if it's on Zoom or whatever, and discuss it as colleagues. So that's what my request would be of you and my board colleagues, is that there be a willingness to convene to discuss it at the appropriate time when those decisions need to be made based on the dates these outside forces are putting in front of us.
Well, the one benefit we do have is before the governor's set date, we do have a board meeting, which will also give us a time frame to see what the effects are after the holidays. So that's kind of my thought process, and that we can see what shakes out from the holiday break and see what our numbers look like And then we have a board meeting too.
So that date is the 17th and the board meeting is the 10th. So then, is it reasonable to expect that administration would put together a presentation for the board which shows, you know, here's where we're at, here's what the trends are, here's what we've been doing, here's our in-house data. You guys, here it is, make a decision.
Yep, we can definitely provide that data.
Okay, and that gives you time to kind of plan on that responsibility.
Yeah, we'll do that for the January meeting.
Thank you. Is everybody else comfortable with that on the board?
Alright, I'm good.
That was longer than a minute and a half.
That was, I'm sorry. I know, I hesitated even ripping the Band-Aid off on that one, but we had to.
No, I appreciate it.
It's just one of those conversations that, it's a reality that's facing us, and we just have to know that. I just want to make sure everyone knows that that is the next step.
Yes, sir. Any additional board comment?
There is a new report in here that's district staffing. Do you want to take just a quick second to bring that up for us?
Yeah, so as part of the last meeting we had with the negotiation and compensation committee, there was some dialogue about what is the actual staff makeup in our school district. And so we thought it'd be good to put together a document that showed who's who in the Zoom, to show who our staff members are. And so this document is more Excel driven, obviously, but it highlights for you the administrative staff, the professional staff, the support staff, and then other like coaches, game workers. Those are all brand new line employees. And then it's broken out by department. So elementary, intermediate school, high school, virtual academy, central office, etc. So that gives you a complement of who the staff are. The one thing I will clean up on this, and forgive me for not having it exact how I wanted it, but I want to make sure we also include on here our contracted services, and who our contracted service providers are, what areas they service, and then how many staff that company has as well. So that's missing. That's missing on this. We'll clean it up a little bit. I was going to highlight it. I actually haven't highlighted in my notes to highlight. And I was like, well, for sake of time, and it's not quite where I want it. So I apologize, but we had wanted to get something at least in front of you, which is our first stab at it. But we'll clean it up a little bit more. But this at least gives you our staff that are Brady Line, and they're 256 Brady Line Heights employees, excluding any contracted services, and then the vacancies that are currently posted in each area. Okay. So we'll continue to refine that a little bit, and any suggestions you might have for us that would help you better understand it, better process the information, let us know, and we can use that to help guide a document that would best service your needs as you look at the staffing in school district.
Any additional comments?
So we only have one vacancy currently at the elementary. Am I reading this correctly? I thought we needed more long-term subs or at the elementary level where those filled.
This is what was given to me by our HR department. That there's one gap right now.
Okay.
So I know we have one in the works to fill one of those LPS positions, which probably takes away. It probably was two, and there's probably one.
So like the two title positions that are open.
Yeah,
Where are those?
There's one of them that is in the works.
In March. Okay, so we have no more long-term sub positions open. Contracted.
No contract in that. Long-term subs.
I mean, well, like our daily subs.
Right.
Building subs.
Yeah, the building subs.
Wasn't there one that we would get a contract for a whole year?
Yes. So those work for us, and they sub every single day.
Yeah.
There is that's through the contract piece. That's not.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's why it's over here. And there is one opening there.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why I want to clean it up a little bit more.
Okay.
Just to give you the full. Here's Brandywine employees, and then here's the contract services, so we don't get it
Then you
mixed
only
up.
see this. Like, oh,
Yeah. It's
so much better.
Yeah. we need to work on it a little bit, because a lot of it's contracted employees. Yeah.
We're good? Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Hohenschel?
Yes.
Mrs. Ham?
Yes.
Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens? Mrs. Wallheiser?
Yeah.
Mrs. Eisenhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
8 yeas, motion passes.
Thank you. Personnel report. Can I get a motion and a second?
Okay, under personnel report, we have a couple changes to status. We have a staff member that's a part-time staff member working with the Virtual Academy. We talked about some of those increases that have been happening with the Virtual Academy. This person works directly with our full-time students, and because of that growing need, we're asking for that position to be bumped from 0.5 to 0.75 to help offset some of those additional students that are being serviced. We have a change in status from our Title I teacher. Title I is reading support. She's a reading specialist. She also has a family consumer science background and certification, and we have a need for a family consumer science position. And so that staff member is going to switch over and do the family consumer science role. We have a few appointments, and they're particularly co-curricular. And co-curricular we use as, that's the word we use for sports or coaches. And so when you click on that link, it'll link you to the coaches. Similar to that staffing document that we're going to continue to refine, this document continues to be refined. And so we made even some tweaks today to that to help just really crystallize what we're trying to say with that document, to tell the story of who our new coaches are those new coaches coaching another sport, but are new to that specific sport, are they new just to the Brandywine School District? And so we try to tell a story there within the document that's in front of you. So that's what that document is under C4.
Can I just ask one question?
Yeah, please.
So, again, I'm biased with my special ed background. I am just curious as to why we would take a reading specialist out of the Title I program and move them into, and nothing against home economics.
Yeah.
But I mean, we obviously have struggling readers that, you know, we definitely benefit from having that kind of certified person in that position.
Is it personnel matter?
Yeah.
Yeah, but doesn't personnel, that's something we probably should address in the executive session?
I mean,
Or is it-
strategic.
Or is it more strategic than just about?
Yeah, that's my question. That, like,
Maybe if you address how you're gonna backfill the retained position.
So we went through a whole interview process multiple interview processes to fill that family consumer science position. We weren't able to find someone successfully. And the individual.
okay.
I don't know how to talk about this without talking about an individual. So there was a common understanding between the individual to service either the Title I role or the family consumer science role, and because there was a need and there was no applicants at all for that position, it behooved the school district to put that person in the position where there was the certification was not able to be filled. And because we had someone on staff that had the certification, it allowed us to do that position, knowing that a reading specialist position strategically can get filled by a reading specialist, or it can get filled by a regular elementary certified teacher that works under the umbrella of a reading specialist. So there's a lot more opportunity for us to fill that position versus a very defined FCS certification. That was the reason. Strategically allowed us to almost better give us a full complement of staff.
And I guess why not wait until you have that Title I position filled?
Because
now we're short two.
We're short two.
And our numbers are never been higher.
We have two holes. This person either fit this hole or this hole. We put him in this hole because this
this hole here has schedules involved in it, and just students are going to an empty classroom without someone there.
There's no sense.
There's no sense. Fill that hole. And so when they were coming in like history and science, take a period, fourth period, there's no one there. And so it became a more desperate need than, even though we have an absolute need for a reading specialist at the youngest age, and you know my background, it's early childhood, and we put our efforts at that early childhood age to offer concerns at the youngest age. Those needs, there's someone there to support the students, whether it be the classroom teacher or some other support. It's great to have this extra person, and that's what we need, but it's not like they're going to an empty classroom tomorrow. Whereas here, they're going to an empty classroom tomorrow if we don't have someone. So that was the reason why we had to do it. I hear you. I agree with you.
I was
but
just trying to figure out the logic on that.
Logistically, that's why, because we have an empty seat here that needs someone in it. So under leaves, we have a couple leaves under E1. There's a medical leave for an employee. There's also a maternity leave for an employee. And then we have under other personnel, our school psychologist who is filling in for a learning support teacher. He's going to be the mentor for that learning support teacher, which is a pretty neat opportunity. And then we are asking the board to create a new position. As I think everyone might be aware, we have the need for 3 crossing guards. We have 1 crossing guard. To really be at full complement 3, again, we really need 2 to really have a safe environment. And so a lot of folks have been chipping in. The principals have been serving as crossing guards. Custodians have been serving as crossing guards. And so to help offset that, we're asking to create a combined position that would be a crossing guard and a custodian, in hopes that we might be able to attract someone instead of just saying, here's a crossing guard position, and it's these weird hours and it's part-time. If we can make a full-time position, it might be able to help us attract someone. We have custodial needs, because there's definitely openings for custodians. We have crossing guard needs, so we thought, well, let's give this a try and see if we could combine those 2 together and make that into a new position to try to attract.
I think this was asked last meeting. We asked the fire department.
We did, yeah.
And they don't want to, or they don't, did we ask Lions and that?
We asked Hopton. I think we reached out to Lions too. I'm pretty sure we did, but there wasn't someone that was ready to do it.
Is that, I just drove through Kutztown today, and they have, their firemen can do that.
Yeah.
Are they do that volunteer based?
No, that's actually the public works employees. They have their own department, they have their own police department. So they have meter maids and crossing guards as part of their governmental office.
I learned so much about crossing guards. So in the school code says that the municipality is responsible for crossing guards. At one point in time, they were in our district, and then that ownership got shifted to the school district, and we took over at the crossing guard responsibility. So that's how it became ours. Whereas the Kutztown example, the municipality still owns it there.
Well, my home district in New York, the police department is advertising for crossing guards, so that's what I mean.
Yeah, and that's why. So at some point in time, it got shifted back to the school district. Do you want to break for a second?
Yeah, so I'm going to ask for a motion to go into exec session to discuss. All right, okay. Then we're going to go into an exec session to discuss personnel items, and there will probably be action after the exec session.
There has to be action on the motion.
So board members, we're going to walk down the hallway here to the business office conference room.
Will there be
All right. We'll turn it over to you, Andrew, for
Yes, thank you everyone for your patience as we had a chance to break for exec session. Just coming back in where we left off was other personnel under the board section, and we're looking specifically at item 3. So there is several recruitment and retention proposals that are on the agenda this evening. Just to bring the community up to speed of what is happening here. At the board meeting in November, the district presented the different concerns that we had relative to staffing. We provided the staffing update, and we articulated there were approximately 20 plus opening positions, primarily support staff, custodian positions, paraprofessional positions. We even have teacher positions that are open, and that historically is something that has never been seen before. We often had a lot of applicants for teaching positions, and even that has become a challenge for us. So the board asked the administration to come back and evaluate what could be done and provide a recommendation to the board at the December board meeting. So what the administration team did was we met with several organizations. We researched some industry incentive programs that are out there. We partnered with HR firms to help us develop some recruiting and retention opportunities, and then also participated in some staffing seminars. All of that yielded about 16 different proposals that were given to the negotiation compensation committee. It was almost like a menu-driven discussion that lasted for several hours with that committee, and we really picked apart the merits of each one of those ideas and honed in on the ones that you see in front of you this evening. So the ones you see in front of you this evening are really driven at, again, the goal is recruit and the goal is to retain. And so the first one that you see here is our daily substitute rates. So our substitute rates, we want to make sure we're staying competitive with the market. Our current substitute rates is $110 for a day-to-day sub that just comes in periodically, and $120 for someone that serves with us every day. Mrs. Walleye has asked a question about a substitute that's in our building every single day for 180 days. Those rates would go from 110 to 130, the casual substitute that would come in periodically, and 120 to 150 for that substitute that's with us every single day of the school year. So our goal there is to attract more substitutes to the Brandywine Heights Area School District, easing the burden on our staff, particularly our teachers that are filling positions, having to collapse classes, having to cancel some of our specials to be able to buffer for substitutes. Our substitute rate is usually fairly good, in the mid to high 80%. We're hanging now a little bit lower to the higher 60s, 70% range. So again, the goal is to get more substitutes and increase that learning potential for our students. The second one is to partner with Brandywine Transportation to do some more grassroots advertising efforts. We do have transportation openings, and so our goal is to increase some efforts to incentivize and to make aware of the Brandywine transportation programs that are available. The third one is to create some flexibility in creating a crossing guard position. I talked about that one previously before we broke for executive session. The fourth one is to create opportunities for our custodians that are going to be doing some overtime. So one of our major gaps is custodians. And so if we can incentivize a custodian to work an additional 4-hour unfilled shift, they would get an additional $50 bonus to fill that shift on a daily basis. Again, it has to be an unfilled custodial shift. The other item that is looking to expand is the reimbursement, uniform reimbursement allowance. So currently that is in place for our food service staff. We'd like to expand that for our food service staff and extend it to our custodians and our maintenance. Those are the folks that are coming in, shoveling the snow, helping with all the winter weather cleanup, and there was really no allowance in there to buy gloves or to buy boots or to buy winter coats. And so it helps to offset some of those responsibilities that they have to be able to keep themselves warm while they're doing the school district service. The next one is a employee referral program. That employee referral program is a 2-tier program. It is $500 to any employee that provides a recommendation to a new employee to be hired at the school district. Once that individual is hired by the school board and officially approved at a school board meeting, the employee that recommended that new hire would get $500 after board approval. The new employee would also receive $500, but it would be at the end of the school year. So we want to make sure that that person stays, that there's some longevity, some buy-in. We feel we have a good culture and a good working environment here, but we want to make sure that we can keep them long enough to be able to get them to enjoy that experience here working and hopefully retain them for the long term. So again, $500 for the person making the referral after board approved, and $500 for the new employee as of June 30th at the end of the school year. There also is a interview referral bonus. So if any employee recommends someone and that person is interviewed, they would be eligible for a monthly incentive, such as a lunch program or something along those lines. And then the final two are a little bit more significant. These are looking to, we did an analysis of our current starting rates, and I mentioned earlier, we need to stay competitive. Fiscally, as a school district, we are the second highest tax school district, and we have to be very cautious of that. So we've always been competitive, maybe a little bit on the lower end of competitive, but we've fallen out of that competitive range. And so we analyze those rates and are recommending a new starting rate. And instead of a set dollar amount, there is a little bit of flexibility based off of experience, based off of some of the credentials that a new employee would have. And so there is a proposed new starting rate that would take effect January 1. And then finally, if we're going to be adjusting proposed starting rates for our support staff positions, we also need to evaluate what are we doing for our existing support staff positions. Because as you start to eke up new starting rates, our existing employees may get leapfrogged or are going to be really close to that brand new employee coming to the school district. So there's a two-tiered approach here. One is to provide a one-time bonus for staff on a weighted allocation for a total lump sum of $28,000 that be spread amongst the entire support staff group. And then finally, when we get to July 1, to make a market adjustment to the pay rates equivalent to what the competitive starting rate wages shifts are. And so to be able to do that, that is going to cost an anticipated $154,000. $154,000. So the funding strategy here is the items that are on for consideration now will be buffered by some of the staffing vacancies we have currently throughout the course of the school year. So by having some of our misses in custodial, paraprofessionals, and some of those other staffing vacancies, we've been able to, obviously we want a full complement of staff, but because we don't have that, we have been able to yield some financial savings, and we can use that to offset the cost this year. And then there's going to be a bigger hit come July 1. We're hoping we can weave that in with just the normal budget process. That is the ultimate goal. If we can't do that, then we talked earlier in this board meeting about transitions in some funds and fund balance to be able to slowly infuse some of the fund balance so it's not as significant of a hit on the general budget. That can get streamed out over 2 years to be able to make that as much of a burden on the taxpayer by weaving it out over 2 years. That is the summary of the recruitment and retention process. Again, big picture, we know there's a staffing crisis. The board asked us to look at this. The salary negotiation committee helped really drive some of these decisions. And now we're presenting to you these recommendations to help with the staffing vacancy we have in this one.
Any additional board discussion? Hearing none, could I get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Hugh?
Yes.
Mr. Reitner?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallweiser?
Yes.
Mrs. Eisenhart?
Yes.
Mr. Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Hohenschel?
Yes.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
8 yeas, motion passes.
Is there any additional public comment?
If I can, just for a second here, if I can introduce, Matt, if you don't mind just saying hi, that is Matt Donato. He is one of our 7th grade science teachers. He's also the BPA president this year. It's been a great working relationship so far. He's a wonderful leader, wonderful science teacher, more important. And then if we can just go down the line here, this is the administrative staff. So for our new board members, Tom, if you don't mind just starting who you are and what title you serve.
Sure, absolutely. So, hello, I think I've met everybody now. My name is Tom Volker, Assistant to the Superintendent.
Good evening, Scott Geis, Director of Athletics and Facilities. Nice to meet you.
Good evening, everyone. Robert Farina, Intermediate Middle School Principal.
Hi, I'm Matthew Jinich. I'm the high school principal. Hello, everyone. Jameson Barnhart, Assistant High School Principal.
Hi, Carolyn Honich, Virtual Academy Director.
Hi, Stephanie Kelly, Elementary Principal.
Hi, I hope you remember me. Dr. Reed, Director of Pupil Services.
Evening, Mike Wetzel, Director of Building and Grounds.
Evening, Carly Norman, Supervisor of Instruction and Assessment.
We just that's a good team.
I am very blessed with a phenomenal administrative team, with a wonderful working relationship with we have great teachers in the school district. The relationship with our association is just awesome. And our support staff. We have a great cadre of staff that work here in the school district, all supporting our kids. And our kids are great. Our families are phenomenal. It's a wonderful school district. And we have a lot to be proud of. So I thank all of these folks because they're the ones that are really the ones that are leading the effort, that are working with our kids on a daily basis. And again, just so much school pride that we have and we should have for our kids and our education system here in Brandywine. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any additional board comments? Discussion? Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn? Thank you, everyone, and welcome aboard. We'll try and keep meetings moving forward not as long, but there was a lot to cover today, so I really appreciate everyone sticking it out, and welcome aboard.
We only have one call.
Thank you, Mr.
That's not too bad.